Gator Dave, how we doing?
We are doing well, Mike. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. It's another day, another beautiful day, another day closer to college football, sir. We're getting
It
right around the
is.
corner.
It is. Lots of camps kind of opened up today. And I think I saw my Gators camp opened up today. So
Yeah, I think a
NFL
lot of teams did.
camps, yeah, NFL camps opening up. So it's good. We hope everybody's doing well tonight. We are Bets Utopia, your number one location for all things sports betting. I'm Gator Dave, and that's Miami Mike. We want to thank everybody for listening, viewing, however you caught us last week. Thanks so much. We are Cheers live on at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. If you can't catch us, you can watch us on YouTube. You can check out the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast and more. So very excited to start this one off tonight. We are doing the ACC tonight, Mike, and your Miami Hurricanes in here. So I know you're pumped up about that. We were just talking about the Miami and Florida game. We
Absolutely.
will be attending together again this year. Hopefully, I'll have a little bit more luck this year than last. So look forward to being down there in the Dolphin Stadium / Kane Stadium. So, all right,
That's pretty
ACC,
exciting.
let's get rolling. I'm going to start with a fun fact about the ACC. They have more transfer quarterbacks than any of the big four. They have 8 transfer quarterbacks coming in this year. So, rolling in from other leagues. So, we'll see how that goes. We'll talk about them as we go through. So, here we go. You ready to go, Mike? Ready to start?
Let's go. Start us
All right,
off.
here we go. Here we go. I'm going to start at the bottom, which is what we've been doing as of late. We're going to start with number 17. I've got this Stanford Cardinal coming in at a blistering 2-10. Mike, they're going to return 11 from a team that went 3-9 last year. I think they're going to take a step back. Unfortunately, they've got a Nicky New quarterback and Elijah Brown coming in. He'd rank 17 out of 17 in the ACC according to the experts up there. So that's kind of why I have Stanford bringing up the rear. The other reason is their strength of schedule is just about as tough as you can get in the ACC. They are number 14, which is a real tough in the ACC. They had a ton of players hit the portal. Um, ESPN actually has the Cardinal ranked 68 out of 68 in the Power Four. Um, they're going to have to count on a lot of transfers. I just don't see it happening. It's going to be a rough year. I'm going to go 2 wins on the Stanford Cardinal, Mike.
Oof.
Yep. And we're going to move on to number 16. My boss's boss, our CEO, Steve Taylor, Wake Forest grad. Hate to say Steve, but Demon Deacon's going to be 3-9. Not a good year. 16 in the ACC in my book. They only returned 6 from a team they only won 4 last year. Step back. They do have 6-year senior quarterback Robbie Ashford, but the soothsayers have Ashford 16th out of 17, so not too good. This is Ashford's 4th team. He tootled around the SEC for a while, and nothing happened there. So he's now with Wake Forest. So I don't think it's going to go well. Straight to schedule 68, pretty easy. Actually, the easiest in the conference. They bring in new coach, head coach, Jake Dickert, after the departure of Mr. Dave Clawson. Um, they, as Stanford did, lost a lot of players to the portal. Obviously, when you lose a coach and you don't bring in some great coach, that's what happens. They did retain running back Desmond Claiborne, who's a stud, 1,049 yards last year, 11 TDs, 254 yards receiving. He's a great player. He will be back to help out there. They bring back their leading tackler, Nick Anderson, 56 solo tackles, couple interceptions, and a fumble recovery. So they do have their two top on defense and offense coming back. Dickert comes over from Washington State after being the head coach over there for 4 seasons, but it's going to be a rough start for him at Wake at 3 wins. Number 15, Mike. I am going back to the West Coast and saying California Golden Bears. I've got them at 4-6. They're only returning 7 starters from a team last year that went 6-6. Their quarterback is Devin Brown, a transfer out of Ohio State. They've got him ranked 15 out of 16. He is a dual threat quarterback. We'll see how he does. He left Ohio State for a reason. Strength of schedule, pretty easy. 62nd in the nation, so that'll help them a little bit. But they lost a lot on offense, especially. The quarterback went to Indiana. Tight end is gone. Both their top running backs gone. That combined for 1,000 yards. So they lost a lot of firepower on that offensive side of the ball, Mike. So that's why I've got them taking a step back this year. D-line's going to be decent. They retain their linebackers as well, so I don't think they're going to lose a lot of firepower on the defensive side of the ball, but I just think they're going to have trouble scoring points, Mike, and I have them at 4 wins. Next up, number 14, Virginia Cavaliers. Mike, I've got them coming in at 5-7. They're returning 9 from a team that went 5-7 last year. Quarterback Chandler Morris. So interesting situation there. He's coming in from North Texas last year. He did pretty well, 3,774 yards, and that league 31 touchdowns for North Texas State, who had the number 3 offense. But we know it is group of 5. Strength of schedule for the Cavs, 67th, which is pretty easy. They lost a lot on both lines of scrimmage, which is obviously going to be tough in the trenches, and protecting the quarterback and getting to the quarterback is going to be an issue. Their top player returning on defense, Cam Robinson, he's back. He had 5 interceptions, 64 tackles last year, so he'll be back. And look for Xavier Brown, the running back, 6 yards a carry last year, to be their cowbell in the backfield. But still going to be another rough year for the Virginia Cavaliers at 5 wins. Mike, what you got?
So, Dave, go ahead and give me one more.
One more. So I have
one more.
You want one more? All right. I will give you one more. I will give you number 13, Boston College Eagles.
There we go.
Everybody's favorite last year. We know that quarterback that had the issue. We'll talk about that. But I have Boston College having a tougher year this year, Mike. I've got them going at 5-7, returning 12 from a team that went 7-5 last year. Grayson James is their quarterback. That's the guy that took Shorty's place, Castellanos, when he started his little deal at the end of the last year. But I'm sorry. I do apologize. But they've got him ranked 9th in the conference. So it's going to be tough. He had 1,202 yards, 64%, 6 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in those last few games there. The O-line lost 3 starters from last year. D-line lost their best player in Azuku, who went to the NFL. They do have a few guys returning on the D-line, though. O'Brien, he's not a big portal guy, so he didn't get a lot coming in. He lost some, but didn't kind of replenish like I think he should, Mike. On offense, their wideout, Lewis Bond is back, 67 catches, 689 yards. Pretty good player on the wide receiver position. They lost their star running back to the Lions. But they do have their number 2 guy, Trayshawn Ward, is back. He had 406 yards and 2 TDs. So strength of schedule, here's what's going to bite him, is 18th. I think it's pretty tough. So Mike, I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back and only get 5 wins this year. So, what say you now, sir?
All right, right on. First and foremost, I want to do one thing, Dave. We got to talk about CYA. We're going to do it. Shop CYA. Check it out up top for our podcast listeners at shopcya.com. Look, doesn't matter who you are. If you're going into a sporting event, a concert, wherever, you need a clear bag. And that's where Shop CYA comes in, okay? Here's your clear bag. Podcast people, I need you to imagine it, okay? Close your eyes. Think deep. All right, it's a clear bag, okay? You're going through security. You put it down. Everybody can see your stuff. When you walk off, everybody can still see your stuff. That's why CYA comes in, okay? You clip it on, boom, it's covered on both sides. Your assets get covered when you're walking around the venue. Nobody can see what you got going on, where your credit cards are, in a little tap to pay action now in these days. Just saying, it's a great idea. Check it out, shopcya.com. Moving
Hey, Mike,
back
before you roll in, we got a shout out to Mr. Scott Crawford and Caleb in the chat, as well as Ian after he puts his kids down. So
love it.
Shout out to those guys. Caleb already shouting Georgia
shout
Tech.
Out for good fatherhood right there. We love it.
There you go.
All
right.
So yeah, back to ACC play. All right, we got we talked about it last week with SEC and how there's going to be some major parity. There's going to be some teams that are going to shock some folks in good ways and bad ways. Same thing with the ACC. This year is going to be ultra competitive. Some of these teams have some really tough schedules. As I'll go through, talking about them, I'll name some of these games that these teams are going to have to go through. ACC isn't known for being one of the most powerful conferences out there, out of the Power Four, but this year I think they're going to shock some folks. So coming in on my bottom for 17 is going to be Boston College, Gator Dave. I got them at 3-9. They lose their QB. You mentioned it, Castellanos. He's going to FSU. That's Kyler Murray 2.0. He's a senior. We've talked about him on this show for 4 years now. He's ultra talented. He got benched last year because ultimately he got in a dispute with his coaching staff. We'll see how that plays out at Florida State if things hit the fan. But the kid's got all the talent in the world. He's going to do something with Florida State, but we'll get to them. They bring in a transfer quarterback from Alabama. Main things for me with this team, their left guard. Okay, he's played in 3 games. So I don't care how good you are. That's going to be a wake-up call at the beginning of the season. And I'll get into their schedule in a second. They lost their top 2 running backs. They do return their top receiver, so that's good. Here's their schedule. They got to go at Michigan State. They got to go to Stanford. That's over 3,000 miles. They have to go at Pittsburgh. They got Clemson at home. They have to go to Louisville. Notre Dame at home. SMU at home. Georgia Tech at home. And then they got to go to Syracuse at the end.
I mean, that's like five or 6 losses at the end of the year, not counting what they got to do at the beginning.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So quick little fact here, too, for Boston College fans. Over the last 10 years, you're probably not going to like this one, I'm sorry. Boston College is below 500. They are 59-65. They've had 2 3-9 seasons. Unfortunately, I think this one's number 3. So, yeah, I got Boston College coming in at 3-9. Next up, at 16, we got Stanford. I have them at 3-9 as well. You got Frank Wright coming in, making his collegiate debut, former NFL head coach. But they are going to be in a world of hurt, I believe. They lost their leading running back. They're losing their 2 leading receivers. They do return a good portion on defense, so they will have that to kind of hang their hat on. I just don't know how much this offense is going to be able to produce for them. They're probably a year or 2 away, I think, from really kind of competing the way that they used to. You'll see at the bottom of the ticker, Andrew Luck. He came in as their new GM for football, so he's going to have something to say with this program. I think they end up getting back on the right track, but again, I think they're about a year or two away. So, and listen to this one. They got to go at SMU. They got Florida State at home. Then they got to go to Miami. They have Pittsburgh at home. They got to go to North Carolina. They get Cal at home, classic rivalry. And then they get Notre Dame at home. So I think it's gonna be kind of a shocker at the beginning of the season, and people are gonna be a little excited because Stanford's, I think, gonna be 2-1 after week 3. I think they'll be 3-2 after week 5, and then I don't think they win a game the rest of the year. So yeah, I got Stanford at 3-9. Another quick note about them: all 6 of their road games are in a different time zone than the Pacific Standard Time Zone, which Stanford's campus is at. So that's something to note too. They got a time change everywhere they go this year. Coming in at 15, I got Wake Forest at 5-7. You mentioned it, former Washington State head coach Jake Dickert coming over. They got quarterback Robbie Ashford transferring in, old Auburn quarterback, South Carolina quarterback, probably some other places. He's a bit of a journeyman, that Robbie Ashford, but he's talented. And that's why I got Wake Forest coming in at 5-7. They do lose some pieces on offense. They lose their top 4 receiving options, but you mentioned it, the biggest piece is coming back, and that's DeMond Claiborne, the running back. Offense lives and dies with him, so it's major that they get him back. They have a pretty experienced O-line as well, and their leading tackler, Nick Anderson, with 122 tackles last year. He's returning, and he is a defensive back, Gator Dave. 122 tackles, leading the team, and he's a DB. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
I think that means your linemen and linebackers suck, and
it means something.
There.
It means something, that's for sure. Their schedule, not so great either. It's going to start pretty easy. They got Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, Delaware at the end of the year. Those are their non-conference games. And then they got a Thursday night home game against NC State. They got Georgia Tech at home. They got to go to Blacksburg to play Va Tech. They have SMU at home. They got to go to Tallahassee to play Florida State. North Carolina at home. And then Oregon State is also there. They got to go out west to Oregon. I didn't even look up the mileage for that one, but I imagine it's over 3,000 probably. So I have Wake Forest at 5-7. I think they actually could get bowl eligible. I think most of these teams from here on out could get bowl eligible. Boston College and Stanford, I'm sorry, you don't stand a chance. But I think most of these teams moving forward, even the ones that I'm not predicting, 6-6 or up, I think they have a shot. So I got Wake Forest coming in at 5-7 at 15. California is going to be my 14. They're 5-7 as well. You mentioned it. Mendoza went to Indiana, the quarterback, but they did bring in Devin Brown from Ohio State, so that's big. They brought in L.J. Johnson, the running back from SMU, because they needed to. Needless to say, they lost their 6 leading running backs, leading rushers from last year, all 6, and they only returned 1 of their 8 leading receivers from last year. They also only return 1 of their top 7 tacklers for Cal. Their schedule is also pretty rough. I think they do the same sort of thing as Stanford in this one. They start off pretty solid in the year, and then they kind of tank once the schedule gets going. I think they make it through week 4, looking at probably 3-1, and then they're going to go 2-6 after the fact. So, couple quick notes about this team and this head coach. Wilcox, he is 100% on the hot seat. He's 42-50 through his 9 years at Cal. He's 3-21 versus top 25 teams, and he's 3-10 off a bye week. But he does have this going for him. He is a great against the spread underdog coach. They are 32-16 against the spread as underdogs, the Cal Golden Bears. And my last one, and then I'm sending it back to you here, Dave, is I got Duke coming in at 5-7. Yeah. You think I have faith in Manny Diaz? What's the matter with you?
Oh, you're getting jealous. Getting jealous of
Gel.
Manny now.
Hold on. That's a crazy word choice,
Getting
Dave. All right.
jealous of
Jealous
Manny.
is a crazy word choice.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, quarterback Malik Murphy, he knew what was good for him. He transferred out west to Oregon State. They did get Darian Mensah from Tulane, but that's because they dropped a bag, the $4 million per year for 2 years in NIL money. They did lose their top running back. They lose their top 2 wide receivers, and they lose their top 3 tacklers. But Manny Diaz did what Manny Diaz does, and he hit the portal hard, so they do have pieces coming back in. Couple quick notes. Last year, this team was 0-3 straight up against top 25 opponents. Something positive about this Duke team, in their last 10 as home underdogs, they are 9-1 against the spread. That's pretty impressive. They are just 3-5. I'm sorry. I think they're gonna be 3-5 after week 10 with both byes gone. I think they'll be sitting at 3-5, and I'm gonna tell you why. They start the season with Illinois at home. That's an L. They play NC State at home. I think that's an L. They go then to Syracuse. I think that's an L, Dave. Then they got to go to Cal. That's 2,800 miles. That's a long way. They haven't been out to the West Coast in a long time, these Duke Blue Devils. Then they play Georgia Tech at home. Then they got to go to Clemson. Then they got to go to North Carolina. And then, luckily, they got UConn at UConn, Virginia at home, Wake at home. Not great.
7 wins.
And you know,
oh, I'm sorry.
you would think so, right? Because you think Virginia is an easy win. Listen to this one. The last 9 games versus Virginia, Duke is 1-8 straight up and 1-8 against the spread.
What happened
Not
last
so
year?
hot. And that's all. We're not worried about last year, Dave. We're worried about the last 9 games. Okay. All right. Sending it back to you here, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right, we're going at number 12. I got the Turkeys. I got the Virginia Tech Hokies coming in at 6-6. Only returning 5 starters is real tough, and a little scary for a team that went 6-6 last year. So, their quarterback, senior Kyron Drones, they've got him ranked 8th. He was a little on the roller coaster side last year, Mike. Only 1,562 yards, 61%, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I think he got yanked a few times. He ran for 336, but dude was sacked 14 times. So a little issue there with the O-line. Strength of schedule, 47th. They do have a new offensive line coach. Thank God. Matt Moore. He bought several transfers with him from West Virginia, and that's probably good when you think about an O-line. I mean, you talk about continuity, and if a couple of those guys come in from West Virginia with their coach, that's kind of a good thing for them. They only have 1 starter off the D-line. They got their 2 linebackers are back, which is good. Top running back last year, Tootin. He's playing for the Jaguars. So their top running back this year is going to be Jeremy Coney, who's a sophomore. He only had 179 yards last year. So he is going to have to produce. Their top 2 receivers went to the NFL, almost half of their receiving yards. So I think it's going to be another roller coaster year, and I'm going to give them 6 wins, Mike. And now we're going to move on to the Syracuse Orangemen. So I have Syracuse at number 11 in the conference. They're returning 7 starters from a team that went 9-3 last year. I think that's really kind of on the back of Kyle McCord. I mean, that was an Ohio State dude. I mean, coach got real lucky getting him. I think the coach is good, but McCord did well last year. They are bringing in a transfer. There's another transfer. They got Ricky Collins coming in from LSU. But they don't think a lot of him, at least the media, and they have him at 14th out of the 17 teams. Now, here's the kicker: strength of schedule, toughest in the ACC. One service I looked at had him second toughest in all of football. O-line's going to be totally new, which is going to be tough on this kid Collins, who hadn't really started a lot. They've only got one returning starter. D-line, lots of loss there as well. They do bring back their DBs and safeties, which is going to be on the positive side in terms of defending the long ball. But I still think it's going to be an issue in the front with line and linebackers. Syracuse represented real well. They had a number of players on the All ACC teams, and all those guys have gone. They're either moved on and transferred or moved to the NFL. So I know he did do some restocking, but not for what he lost, I think, last year when you really look at everything that left the team. So I think they're going to take a step back and only end up with 6 wins this year, Mike. Next up, I have number 10. I've got North Carolina State Wolfpack. I've got them coming in at 6-6, Mike. They're returning 10 from a team that was 6-6 last year. The quarterback C.J. Bailey's returning, which is good for the team, but they don't think a lot of him. They've only got him ranked 11th. He had 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So not the greatest ratio there. He did run for 279 yards. True that. Strength of schedule, 53rd, which isn't too bad. It's a little easier than average for the conference. Both the lines lose some pretty heavy ACC talent. D-line, they're going to be decent. They got Price returning, and they do have a bunch of transfers, like 5 transfers in. They lost some of their better players in the defensive backfield to a number of Power 4 teams, which is kind of concerning why they left the team and went somewhere else. They do have Sean Brown, their linebacker, leading tackler at 50 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries. He will be back. Two of their top 3 rushers do return in Mothers and Raphael. Top receiver and tight end Justin Jolly, they're returning, as well as Noah Rogers. They did lose Concepcion, which will hurt, but Concepcion was like the number 2 receiver or number 3 receiver on the team. So they do bring back receivers. So I think they'll do well in that regard. Obviously, Bailey will be a little bit better this year, so they should better throw the ball around. But I'm only going 6 wins here, Mike. Do I have another, or am I stopping?
Hit me with another, Dave.
All right, I'm going to give you another, Mike. I am going the Pitt Panthers for my boy Tyler Oskin. I've got them coming in at 6-6. Mike, you talked about parity, and that's why I've got a lot of these teams that, anywhere between 6 and 8 wins. I mean, almost half I've got half the conference at 6 to 8 wins. So these guys come in at 6-6. They're returning 14, which is good from a team last year that went 7-5. QB Holstein, they got him ranked 13th. He had 2,228 yards, 7 TDs, 10 interceptions. He also ran for 328. Strength of schedule about average for ACC at 40th. Leading running back Desmond Reed is back. 966 yards, Mike. 5.3 average, 5 TDs, as well as he's the number 2 receiver. 52 catches at 579 yards, 4 TDs. That's your MVP on that team. Look out for Desmond Reed. Top receiver, Mumpfield, 813 yards. He's playing the NFL. That sucks. O-line needs some improvement. Quarterback got sacked 43 times last year, Mike, and they've only got 1 returner which is probably a good thing. because they were like the swinging gate there, right? Only one returner from that line that got sacked, QB sacked 43 times. D-line looks to bring back a lot of the talent there. They did. They actually lost a little more in the portal. Some of these teams did that. They lost more than they gained in the portal, which is concerning. They do bring back Kyle Lewis, number 2 tackle on the team at linebacker. He did really well. 45 tackles, 7 sacks, 4 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. He's a stud. Holstein, Reed, Lewis, all pro guys. If they stay healthy, this 6 wins could be 7 real easy. So, but I got them at 6 right now, Mike.
Right on. All right. So coming in at 12 for me, I got Virginia. I got Virginia at 6-6. I think they find a way to get bowl eligible, and let me tell you why. They got quarterback Chandler Morris coming in from North Texas. He had 31 touchdowns last year, 12 interceptions, 63% completion. He's going to be able to sling it for Tony Elliott. The downside for this Virginia team is they lost their top running back. They lost their top 2 receivers. They lost their top tackler. They also have not too great of a schedule. There's trends here, people. There's trends. They're going to NC State. They got to play FSU at home. They got to go to Louisville. They got to go to North Carolina. They got to travel to Cal, which is 2,800 miles. And then they got Virginia Tech at home. I actually think that they finally beat Virginia Tech and end their streak. I think they're on a 7-game losing streak. They've lost like 19 of their last 20 against Virginia Tech. I think they were able to finally get over that hump and surprise them at the end of the year. But I'll get to why with Virginia Tech in a little bit here. This is a couple fun facts, I guess, about this Virginia team. This is the first time since 1970 that they're playing UNC, Duke, and NC State. So the Tobacco Road teams. The head coach, Tony Elliott, has a terrible record overall. He's 11-23 at Virginia, but he is 4-0 off a bye. So he's undefeated off a bye. And I think he probably does not continue that undefeated streak this year. But good stat to know. Another one is the Cavs off a win, believe it or not, are 16-6 against the spread, coming off a straight-up win since 2020. Also, that bye week stat that I just gave you, the 2 teams that they're going to play off a bye this year, Washington State and Virginia Tech. End of the season. So maybe that trend will continue. Last number 4 I got on the Virginia Cavs here, they're 13-3 against the spread as a road underdog versus ranked teams. So that's something to note too. They may not win the big games, but they do cover them. So Virginia's 6-6. I have them coming in at 12. 11, I got Syracuse at 6-6. QB transferring in from Notre Dame. He was the backup there. Has pretty good stats as a backup, but obviously he played mostly garbage time against, games that were already done. He had like 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, 70% completion, something like that. So that's probably what got Syracuse, coaches' eyeballs all big with him. But only 2 returning starters on offense for the Syracuse team. They lost their top 3 wide receiving options. They lost their top running back, who had over 1,000 yards last year, 16 touchdowns. They also lost Kyle McCord, who threw for 4,700 yards, 34 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I don't know how they make up for, that loss of productivity. That's just, it's too much. They do have Jonte Cook coming in from Texas as some wide receiver help. But, yeah, this schedule is brutal. You mentioned it. It's one of the worst in the nation. They have Tennessee at a neutral site. They got to go to Clemson. They got SMU on the road. They got Pitt at home. They got to go to Miami, to Georgia Tech, UNC at home, and Notre Dame on the road. I mean, that's a brutal, brutal 8 games right there. I think they find a way to get bowl eligible, but man, it is an uphill climb for this Syracuse team. The good news is they do have a lot of pieces coming back on defense. So that's something that they're really going to have to kind of bank on. One more note here on Syracuse. Last year in Fran Brown's first year as head coach, they did go 3-1 versus top 25 opponents, and they did have a 10-win season. So we'll see if he can replicate that. But that's an uphill battle when you lose that much productivity on your team, for sure. Next, I got at 10, Florida State Seminoles. I got them at 6-6. You got, yeah, I said it, 6-6. Where's Ian?
Where's Ian? He's still putting kids to bed. He's doing his job.
Look, you got Castellanos coming in again. It's Kyler Murray 2.0 for the good and the bad reasons. We've talked about him for years. Kid's super talented. They have Roydell Williams, running back, coming in from Alabama. They have Jalen Lucas coming back from injury. He's a running back that they had that he's electric when he's on the field, but he was hurt most of last year. They have 5 seniors on this O-line. I love to see that. You love experience on the O-line. However, head coach Mike Norvell, 3-10 versus top 25 opponents after 5 seasons. FSU is 3-6 straight up and 2-6-1 against the spread in their last 9 ACC road openers. They open this year at Virginia. So hopefully they can correct that streak, but probably not. Good news for them, they do have some extra help on offense as well. They got Squirrel White, the wide receiver, coming in from Tennessee. Last 2 years for Florida State, though. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Castellanos. Some stats about Castellanos at quarterback and his production. Last 2 years at Boston College, he had nearly 5,000 total yards, passing and rushing combined. He had 60% completion percentage, 33 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, and that was in just 20 starts. So I will say Florida State, the reason that I have them at 6-6, it's not because necessarily that they don't have the talent. That's never really been their problem. I think it's mostly coaching, first and foremost, but this year I think it's going to be their schedule. I think they're going to get back bowl eligible. I don't think they're going to have a losing season this year, but this is an uphill battle. You got Alabama at home to start the year. Your quarterback was already talking mess about Alabama, which is, I mean, I love the confidence, but man, way to put a serious target right on your fucking helmet. They got Miami at home. They have Pitt at home. They got to go to Stanford, which granted, I mean, it's Stanford. But again, these 2,500-mile trips are some distance. That is not easy for college kids to do. They got classes. They got girlfriends. They got other things going on. 2,500 miles, that's not easy for you to do when you travel for business. It's not easy for a kid who's going 100 miles per hour on Saturdays either. At Clemson, home against Virginia Tech, at North Carolina State, which they've hardly won in Raleigh in years, I feel like. Florida at home. If Lagway's healthy, which that's a whole nother story, Dave. Oh no. In the boot, Dave. I got them at 6-6. I think that they could obviously do more than that, especially if Castellanos steps into the role sort of like a Jordan Travis. When Jordan Travis came from Louisville and transferred to Florida State, he fit like a glove. He was the missing piece. They had success. Could happen. He's talented. They have pieces. Like I mentioned, 5 seniors on the O-line. He's going to have protection. Can he see over them? That's another story. I don't know. I got Florida State at 6-6. Losing to the Gators and Miami, by the way. Next, for my final trick, I have Virginia Tech coming in at 7-5. This one was tough for me. I went back and forth because I like Kyron Drones a lot at quarterback. I think this guy's ultra talented, but ultimately I just don't think he has the pieces around him to really make any noise, serious noise in the ACC this year in what is his final year playing college ball. I just don't think they're going to get it done. He does return, but they have a young offensive line in front of him. Um, they lose their top running back. They lose their top 4 receivers. They do return their top 2 tacklers on defense, so that's a plus. Not so good is a stat right here. Their head coach, Brent Pry, he is 1-5 versus top 25 opponents in the 3 years that he's been at Virginia Tech. He is 10-7 at home in Blacksburg. He is 5-13 when they leave Blacksburg. Not good on the road, and he's got some not so great games on the road this year. He plays a neutral site game against South Carolina to start the year. Then he's got Vandy at home. They play at North Carolina State. They got to go to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. They play Louisville at home. Then they got to go to Tallahassee and play the Noles. They got Miami at home. And then they have to end the season against Virginia, which Virginia's going to be very motivated to get that done. And they're going to have a team. They're going to have a sleeper team. Don't count Virginia out. Was upsetting some folks this year. One not so fun fact about Vatech for Vatech fans: last year, they were tied or ahead at the 2-minute mark in the fourth quarter in 4 of their losses last year. So they could have had a completely different season last year if they would have just were able to pull out these close games. Usually the trend tends to adjust itself the following year. So if you lose a lot of close games the last year, the next year, theoretically, you would learn from it. You would win the close games moving forward. We'll see if they do that. If they do, they'll be bowl eligible, and, they might be sitting in contention potentially for the ACC. If they do not win close games like they did last year, they probably will not be bowl eligible. Dave, back to you, sir.
So I'm guessing one of those games that they won in the last 2 minutes could it have been against Miami? Maybe.
No, that was a loss. That was a loss.
I mean, loss. Excuse me, the loss.
Yeah.
Loss in the last 2 minutes.
It was it. Yeah. And that we don't need to talk about the end of that game. All right, we'll just leave it at that.
I know. You kind of started that one. I had to grab it, Maya. I had to grab it. All right. We got shout-outs. My lovely wife, Nirvana. We got Evelyn. We got my nephew, Reese. So we're loading up in the chat there. So, all right. Next group, I am going to number 8, North Carolina Tar Heels, and super stud Belichick at the helm. So they're returning 6 starters. I got them going 7-5. What?
That's your super stud, Dave?
He's a stud. I mean,
all right.
You know what I mean. All right.
Hey,
so
I got
him going 7-5.
That's what that 24-year-old sees, I guess.
Yeah, true. 7-5, returning 6 starters from a team last year that went 6-6 and got rid of their coach. Quarterback will be starting Gio Lopez right now. They've got several they're looking at, but right now he's the flavor of the day. They got him ranked 12th in the ACC. Could do better. We'll see. Last year he had 2,559 yards, 66%, 18 TDs, 5 touchdowns, and rushed for 463 yards. So he's a player, and Belichick's a coach, so it should be interesting. Strength of schedule, 65th, pretty easy. They've completely rebuilt this team. I listened to an interview of Belichick after or during ACC media days, and he said they only have 20 players that were on the team from last year. So they have like almost 70 brand new players. So obviously heavy on transfers and the freshmen that came in. So it should be real interesting. They did pick up some good players from Power 4 teams. Obviously, these guys want to go play for Belichick. We'll see how it goes. This one's a big mystery to me. I mean, I was kind of going with what everybody else thought on this one because who freaking knows? we know Belichick can coach. We know he can. He's got processes, but we'll see what happens in the in college and ACC. It's going to be interesting for sure. So I've got Billy Boyd with 7 wins. Next up, number 7, I have Joe Johnson's in the chat. How you doing, Joe? Joseph. Ian's still not back. Dang it. I've got his Florida State Seminoles winning one more game than you had them going, Mike. I have Florida State at number 7, 7-5. Here's the issue. You talked about they got all those seniors on the offensive line. They might be seniors, Mike, but they only returning 6 players from the entire team last year. Of those 6, only one of the 6 was on offense. Yep, I'm looking at it. 6 returning players, starters, 1 from the offense. So those seniors, you get what I'm saying.
All right, that was a good. I didn't, but I do now. I was questioning that fun fact right there, Dave. I was.
Gotcha. All right, so that's to me an issue. Obviously, they're bringing in the quarterback Castellanos. We talked about him all last year. He's a cool dude. Obviously, did really well. You heard all the stats from Mike. I'm not go through that. Strength of schedule, 49th, kind of about average, a little easy for ACC. Mike, one thing you talked about was Florida State talent, right? Florida State's blue chip ratio is 3rd in the ACC at 54%. In other words, 54% of their players are either 5 stars or 4 stars. The talent is there. They bring back running back Toafili. They got the transfer in from Alabama, so they should be decent there. Mike talked about it again. Wide receivers, I'm pretty impressed with the wide receivers this kid's going to have. You talked about Squirrel White. Well, they got Deuce Robinson from USC as well, so they brought those guys in. They bring back their leading tackler, Shaheem Brown. He is a DB, though. Again, kind of makes you wonder about the linebackers. But 39 tackles from him last year. And again, the O-line is basically totally transfers, but they are seniors that they brought in to see. We'll see how that goes for them this year. Didn't work out real well last year. The great news, Mike, though, for the Florida State Seminoles, dang, he's still not back. We got the Gus Bus. The Gus Bus is the OC, Gus Malzahn. The Gus Bus. Okay, all right.
I know a different Gus Bus.
I mean, that's just a diamond there, Mike. So, not to mention they got Tony White, defensive coordinator out of Nebraska. They did really well last year on defense. Just go look those stats up. So they got a couple good OCs. I see Seminoles bouncing back. So I'm gonna give Memphis Mike 7 wins. Oh, yeah, Joe Johnson. He's a Gator Day fan there, Mike. I just noticed that. So all right. Next up, Mike. This is where our numbers just are way off. They're only off by 2. But number 6, I have the Duke Blue Devils because I have a little more confidence in your rejected coach. So I've got them going 7-5. They're returning 11 from a team that went 9-3 last year. They're bringing in Mensa, Tulane transfer. And he's getting a buku of money. Last year he had 27-23, 66%, 22 touchdowns, 132 yards rushing at Tulane. It wasn't a Power 4 school, but Tulane was in the mix there at the end for getting in the playoff as that one school. Strength of schedule here, Mike, it's going to help them a little bit. 59th, a little bit easier. D-line is strong. Wesley Williams, 7.5 sacks. And then they've got Vincent Anthony back, Hall's back, so the D-line should be good. Defense overall, I think it's going to be relatively strong. O-line, They got 4 starters back on the O-line, and all ACC Brian Parker. So, I mean, those lines coming back are huge, and if this quarterback can do his thing, I think it's going to be pretty cool for him. Now, they did lose receivers. Their top 2 receivers, Moore and Pancol, are gone. I think the offense is going to take a little bit of a step back. Granted, they're going to have this quarterback in there, but I don't feel real confident right now in what they have in the running back and receiver position. So, had I had a little more confidence, I would have said more wins. But I think I think 7's going to be about where they're going to be because of that offense. Because I think defense is going to do well, but offense is going to be an issue for Duke. Next up, so this was a tough one. I've got number 5. 5 and 4 were just like flip flop, but I've got Georgia Tech. Caleb's got them about winning it all. I think they're going to do well, but I looked at the schedule and it's a little bit tougher. So here's what I got: 8 and 4 for Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They're returning 9 from a team that went 7 and 5. Haynes King, quarterback. They've got him number 2 in the ACC, which is pretty cool. Dude threw for 73%, 21-14, 14 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He ran for 587, 9 TDs. I mean, that's Josh Allen-esque numbers, right? If he can throw a little bit more next year. So very interesting quarterback, to say the least. It's good where he's in town and we can watch him play, right, on TV every weekend. Last year, Mike, on Georgia Tech, I said I gave a Gator Dave lock last year, Mike. When we did ACC, and I don't give a lot. I haven't given any this year, but my Gator Dave lock last year was bet the over on 5.5 for Georgia Tech. Boom, they won 7, Mike. That was a sure lock last year. Should have bet the farm. O-line's going to be strong, bringing back Rutledge and Fusil. D-line's going to be relying on the transfer portal a little bit. They lost some guys. They do have linebackers in Rutherford and Eford, studs at linebacker. Running back, senior, another stud, Mr. Haynes, right? He's awesome. 944 yards, 5.6 a carry, and 9 TDs. They lost their number 1 receiver, which sucked, Eric Singleton. They do have number 2 coming back, 702, 3 TDs, and they picked up a receiver from Florida Atlantic. I know it's Florida Atlantic, but kid is Eric Rivers. He had 1,172 yards, averaged 18.9 a catch, and 12 TDs. He sounds like he could do okay in the ACC. Mike, I'm going to give the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets 8 wins. What do you got?
All right. Coming in at 8 for myself, I have NC State at 8 and 4. You mentioned quarterback CJ Bailey. 65% last year, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 2,400 yards as a true freshman, Dave. True freshman, CJ Bailey. I wanted him in Miami. He's a Miami guy from Miami Northwestern. He is a great quarterback. Actually, I don't know if he's from Northwestern. He might be Chaminade. Actually. But top running back, they get him back. One of the best names in college football, Hollywood Smothers. Their top running back is back for NC State this year. They also get their top 2 wide receivers back, and they get 3 out of their top 4 receivers back. The only one they lose, you mentioned him, is Casey Concepcion, which is, I mean, he's a great athlete, but like you mentioned as well, he wasn't actually their top wide receiver last year, their top receiver. So something to note there. They do get their top tackler back, but only him out of their top 6. So they get their best tackler returning, but they lose their next best 5. The head coach, Dave Dorn, you mentioned he's been there forever at this point, 12 years. He is 6 and 24 versus top 25 at NC State. All games, here's a fun fact for you, Dave. All games that they're going to play this year are going to be on grass, except for one at Notre Dame. Notre Dame plays on turf. So that they do not have that going for them on that road trip to South Bend. Their schedule looks like this. They get Va-Tech at home. Just like I just mentioned, they got to go to Notre Dame. They got to go to Pittsburgh. They get Georgia Tech at home. They got to go down to Miami. They get Florida State at home, and then they get North Carolina at home. Also, Dave Dorn, in his 12 years at NC State, 56-26 when they play at home in Raleigh. When they are on the road, just 28-31. Losing record on the road in 12 years of play for the head coach. So I got them at 8-4. This one might shock you, Dave. Coming in at number 7. This one
real
might.
Quick.
Oh,
Bailey,
hey.
CJ Bailey, Chaminade, just so you know, just for
Chaminade.
the fun fact.
All right.
There.
See?
Chaminade.
It's mine. Something in me said I was wrong. I had to correct myself.
You got
so I
it.
appreciate
You
the
got
fact check. All right.
Boom.
You know where Chaminade's located, Dave?
Somewhere in South Florida.
You know where else is located in South Florida, Dave?
Miami.
I got Miami coming in at number 7 in the ACC this year at 9-3. 9-3. The reason why is coaching and just fate. But I'll get to that in a moment. Carson Beck, quarterback, transfers in from UGA. He did undergo that UCL elbow surgery, but he's supposed to be cleared to play in fall camp. Just started this week. So he's supposed to be cleared 100%, good to go to start throwing. So it'll be interesting if / when we see some video of, some of his balls that he's throwing. Pause. They have a stacked offensive line. It might be the best offensive line that Carson Beck has played behind, and that's saying a lot considering, where he did transfer from at Georgia. The offense has weapons for him as well, which, last year a lot of people like to point the blame or point the finger at Carson Beck for some of Georgia's struggles. But if you watch those games, which, you mentioned Georgia Tech being a local team, we're able to watch them all the time. Same thing with Georgia. They're on the TV all the time. And last year, the issue with Georgia was their offensive line. They gave up over 3 sacks a game. We talked about it on the show almost week in and week out. And the wide receivers' inability to catch the football. That was it. It really wasn't anything more than that. And then Carson Beck had to play hero ball, and people blamed him for it. So I'm excited for him to actually come down to Miami. I do think he's gonna perform pretty well. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. A lot of people had him going into last year as the number 1 overall draft pick, potentially projected. So he's got a lot to prove by coming to Miami. He's got a great blueprint on how to do it with Cam Ward doing the exact same thing. So he's got big shoes to fill. I think he'll be able to do it. What I'm worried about is the defense and the lack of depth that we have on that side of the football, particularly at the defensive back position. We had a lot of guys transfer in. We have a new DC coming in after last year's defense was abysmal. We got a guy coming in from Western Kentucky who is hungry and he's aggressive, and I think he's going to be a good fit for Miami. It's just going to be a matter of how soon these guys buy in. It seemed, from what I've read and what I've watched and what I've seen, it's it seems like they're buying in with this program on the defensive side of the football. If that's the case, I mean, they could do something. If they beat Notre Dame week 1, they could go on a roll. But if they lose that game too, it could get real ugly real quick. Especially, you mentioned it as well, that Gators game in week 4, just right around the corner. That's another one. That these big games at the beginning of the year, sometimes they don't mean too much at the end of the year. If they're able to go on a streak, they're able to go on a run. Sometimes the games at the beginning of the year don't matter as much. But, man, are they big for momentum, especially in a team that's trying to keep building. So it'll be interesting. Couple quick notes about this offense and about this team. They do have weapons, but 2 out of our top running backs are gone. No, I'm sorry. 2 out of our top 3 running backs are back. We did lose a 1,000-yard rusher, but those 2 guys that are coming back actually combined for 1,000 last year, so they should step up in a big way. Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle. We did lose our top 6 receiving options, but we have some serious young guns and some blue chippers that should step in right away and make some noise. Malachi Toney, JoJo Trader. We got transfer C.J. Daniels from Liberty, former LSU wide receiver. He should be a big, big part of this offense and a good safety piece for Carson Beck. I'm going to go over the schedule now, and this is why I have this at 9-3 and so low in the conference. We have Notre Dame at home to start the year. Week 4, we have Florida at home. We got to go to Tallahassee. We have Louisville at home. We got to go to SMU. We have NC State at home. We have to go to Virginia Tech in November. And then the very next week, we got to go to Pittsburgh for the final game of the year. Now, this is the reason I have us at 9-3. And it's because, if you remember, Dave, back in 2017, Miami was 10. We finished 10-2 on the year. That was Mark Richt. I think we were 10-0, 9-0. At one point in the year, we were top 5. Malik Rozier, we had some games that we shouldn't have won and some miracle type situations against Georgia Tech, Florida State. But the reason I mention this is in that season, we played Notre Dame at home. We beat Notre Dame at home to help elevate that momentum and kind of carry us through to the end of the year. However, once we beat Notre Dame, because it was at the tail end of the season, They got a little cocky and ended up choking and stumbling to a Kenny Pickett freshman-led team in Pittsburgh, at Pittsburgh, ruined our season, ended our season. We ended up going to the ACC championship for the first time, played Clemson, and Dabo blew the doors off us at your son's wedding. 35-3. I watched it in the back room, just absolutely disgusted. So that's why I'm going at 9-3. I think that I think we stumble against Louisville. I think we stumble against Pitt at the end, and then I do think we stumble somewhere along the way just because of coaching, and it's Miami. I just don't. I'm not totally bought in that we're over these kind of growing pains that we've seemed to have been going through these last few years. A not so fun fact about Miami as well, we are 0-5 in our last 5 bowl game appearances. Not great. Not great, Gator Dave. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we're looking at a 10-win season back-to-back, and they're able to make some noise and potentially contend for the ACC or the college football playoff. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's the best team that Mario Cristobal has had there yet. But here's another not-so-fun fact. Mario Cristobal is 1-6 in his 3 years at Miami versus top 25 opponents. And it's not great outside of Miami either. So hopefully he can change that trend this year, because we are going to play some top 25 teams. So I got Miami at 9-3. At number 7, number 6 for me is going to be North Carolina. I have them at 9-3 as well. You mentioned it, head coach Bill Belichick. He's making his collegiate debut after a very, very, needless to say, successful NFL career. Gio Lopez is coming in as a quarterback. You mentioned it, South Alabama's quarterback, 66% completion last year, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The dude can straight up sling it. He was the reason we talked about South Alabama so much in the show last year. We had them pretty much every week, it seemed like, and he was a big reason why. The dude can chuck the football. Some bad news for the North Carolina Tar Heels. You did mention how many transfers they've brought in. One of those things, they had to replace are they lost their top 4 tacklers on defense. They lost their top 2 receiving options on offense. And the biggest loss is their running back, Omarion Hampton. He had 1,600 yards last year, 15 touchdowns. That production is going to be very, very hard to replace. They do have a fairly reasonable schedule, to be fair. They could go on a roll if they're able to get past Clemson. They play them a little bit early in the season at home. and they have a bye before and after that game against Clemson, so that's something to note there as well. But they play TCU at home. They got to go to UCF and play Scott Frost. They have Clemson at home, like I just mentioned. They have to go to Cal, which is 2,800 miles away. They got to go to Syracuse and play in the Dome. And then they got to go to NC State to end the year. So I have them at 9-3, but this is one of those teams that, you know, it could be 11-1 and everybody is drooling over your stud, Bill Belichick. Or they could also go 4-8 and everybody goes, what are we doing? So that's, I mean, there's drama there. There's been drama there. There's only going to continue to be drama there. It's going to be an interesting watch there in Chapel Hill this year. So definitely stay tuned for that one. But Dave, that is my next four, sir. Right. Let me draw. Oh, I guess I got one more. I'm sorry. That was my next three. Yep. So I got Louisville. Louisville at 9-3. Miller Moss, the senior, transfer from USC. He had 3,400 yards last year, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So the dude can sling it. They have their top three running back options. Those are returning for Louisville this year. They do lose their top receiving option, who had 1,000 yards last year, in Ja'Cory Brooks. They do, on defense, return their top two tacklers, so that's a plus side. This is another team that has their 5 O-linemen as seniors, so they got experience up there up front, which is always big, especially for Miller Moss. He had some issues with that when he was at USC and taking sacks, so hopefully that will buy him some time. And they have tons of upperclassmen leadership on both sides of the football, and that's why I ultimately have this team at 9 wins. I think that upper class leadership is going to pay off in close games and close situations. And with the schedule that they have, they're going to play close games. It's inevitable. They got James Madison at home, which don't sleep on James Madison. They got Alonzo Barrett is back for quarterback for James Madison this year. Everybody thought he was going to transfer to a bigger school. He ended up going back to James Madison. So that is not a game that they can overlook at home. They got to go to Pittsburgh to play the Panthers. They got to go to Miami. They got to go to Virginia Tech. They get Clemson at home. They got to go to SMU. And then to end the season, they got Kentucky at home. So that's a tough 7 games right there that they better not sleep on. Otherwise, their season could get ugly real quick. Not so fun fact about the head coach. He is 1-5 against the spread as an away favorite the last 2 years. So as an away favorite, Louisville is 1-5 against the spread over the last 2 years. Dave, to you for the final four, sir.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about Louisville just like you did, just right there. I think they're gonna come in fourth. I just don't have these teams winning as many. I'm with your parity thing, and I don't think the wins are gonna stack up quite as much, Mike. So like, you know, I got Louisville. I mean, I got Miami winning 9 and coming in second. You had Miami coming in like 6th or 7th, winning 9. So Louisville, I've got them at 4th, but I've also got them at 8-4. Let me see. Yes, I did. Yes. So I've got them at 8-4. So Mike talked a little bit about it. They're returning 8 from a team that went 8-4 last year. Miller Moss coming over from USC should be a strong quarterback. He started 8 games for USC, 2,555 yards, 18 TDs, but he got yanked toward the end of the year because he just wasn't winning. They've got him ranked at 5th in the ACC in terms of the quarterback rating of the 17 quarterbacks. Strength of schedule, 50th, relatively easy, or it's really about around this. I think I caught the average being about 42nd. O-line, Mike talked about that. They got 2 starters coming back, 2 other guys that have been there for a while. So the O-line's going to be strong for Louisville. And, you know, the Cards returning Isaac Brown, who had 1,173 yards, 11 TDs at running back last year, as well as their number 2 guy, Duke Watson, at 600. So they're gonna do well on the ground. Lost a stud receiver in Ja'Cory Brooks. They lost their tight end as well. They do bring back a kid named Chris Bell, who had 737 yards, 17 yards per catch last year, so he's a stud. Mike talked about leading tackler back and TJ Quinn, 35 tackles, and his partner linebacker Clark had 43 tackles, 2 interceptions. So strong on the defensive side of the ball. I've got the Cards winning 8 games. So I've got number 3. I have the SMU Mustangs. I've got them bumping up to 9 games, going 9-3. They're returning 8 from a team that went 11-3 last year, made it to the playoffs representing the ACC. They bring back quarterback Kevin Jennings, who's ranked 4th in the ACC, 32-45. 65%, 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 354 yards. I think that game, it was after the Florida-Georgia game. I watched SMU. I think they played Pittsburgh and got beat or something. There was some game toward the end of the year that kind of I thought, man, these guys are going down the tank, but they still did well. And this kid Jennings, I mean, he had one bad game, but he was awesome after that. Strength of schedule's 30th, a little tougher this year. They got to play Miami. They got to play Clemson. They got to play Louisville. They also got to play Baylor and TCU. So that's a pretty tough schedule. Of those, TCU and Clemson are on the road. I think they play the toughest schedule in the ACC with all those players or all those teams that they've got to play. It's going to be tough. Mustangs bring back both starting defensive ends in Robinson and Smith, who combined for 14 sacks and 12 tackles for loss. O-line looks pretty good with a number of returning starters. They lost Brashard Smith, their running back, to the Chiefs. That was 1,332 yards. He was a stud. They do bring back their number 1 receiver in Roderick Daniels at 663, 15.8 yards per catch. He also rushed for 160 yards. And they bring back tight end R.J. Maryland. Mike, didn't he get hurt last year and miss part of the year? It seems like either that or he faded out. I know he's your Russell Maryland son, right? The tight end there.
RJ Maryland.
RJ Maryland, yeah. So he'll be back.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He is. Top tackler Kobe Wilson's back, 54 tackles, 3 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Mike, I think SMU wins 9 games, and comes out 9-3. I have your Miami Hurricanes at number 2, Mike. All those good things you talked about your team, I think are going to come into play here. And then I'm going to talk about the schedule and why I think they come in second. You might like it, you might not. I would say coming in second is better than 6 or 7. All right, 9-3. They're going to return 8 from a team last year that went 10-2, bringing in Carson Beck. And Mike and I talked about Beck and some of the crap he had to go through with those dropsy receivers at Georgia last year. But he threw for 34-85, 28 touchdowns at 65%. And, that could have easily been 70-75% with those guys dropping the ball. Strength of schedule, 36th, about average in the league. Miami's blue chip ratio, Mike, 64%. Something to keep in mind when you're comparing your team to those other teams, sir. All right. They're going to have a strong line. They got Hakeem, how do you say that? Misador and Reuben Baines coming back on that D-line. 9 sacks out of those guys. O-line's got Maiga and transfer Brockmeyer from TCU. That's going to be strong. Francis can't do it alone, so they brought in Brockmeyer from TCU, which is going to be good. So I think both lines are going to be good. That's where the coach obviously focuses, which is huge. That's how they think in the SEC, Mike. They did lose their star running back, Damian Martinez, but they got a lot out of him last year. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, come in and kick ass, which he did. Fletcher comes back with 607 yards, and like Mike said, Lyle will be right there with him. Lost a ton of restrepo went to the Titans. Jacoby George went to the Panthers. We got to see who steps up, right? They lost those top 5 receivers, so we'll see. They brought those transfers in, and we'll see how that goes. Linebackers, number 2 linebackers back. He had 36 tackles, 2 sacks, and a couple of interceptions. I think they're going to do well in the ACC. And, Mike, the reason I think you come in second, and you can say yay or nay, but I think you're going to lose to Notre Dame, and I think you're going to lose to us, and then I think you're going to lose one other game. And if that's the case in the conference, you're going to be number 2. Mm-hmm. If Clemson goes 10-2 and so on and so forth. So that's my theory. When I look at the schedule, I mean, you look at strength of schedule and what you said about your team and how well they do against top 25. Well, you know, it's going to be those 2 teams and maybe 1 or 2 others. So that's why I got you going 9-3 and coming in second. So number 1, I have the Clemson Tigers, 10-2, returning 16. If I'm not mistaken, there's not many more teams in the Power 4 that return more than 16. Cade Klubnik is going to be back. They've got him ranked number 1. I think he's going to be better than our boy down there at LSU, because I think we talked about the SEC last week and how his numbers were and how his quarterback rating wasn't that great. Well, I think Klubnik's going to make it happen this year. He'll definitely be in my final 2 or 3 for Heisman contention. We'll obviously know that in a couple of weeks where I go with that. But he had 36-39 last year, 63%, 36 TDs, 6 interceptions, ran for 463. That's even more Josh Allen numbers than the other guy we talked about, right? So that's pretty damn impressive. And I think he's coming into his own. He had a little bit of a stumble 2 years ago, but man, I think he's going to make it happen this year. Strength of schedule, a little tough. 19th is where I've got him, which is a little bit tough. Clemson's blue chip ratio at 55%, which is good. This D-line for Clemson, probably the best in all the Power 4. TJ Parker, Peter Woods, both NFL dudes. O-line's bringing back 4 starters in the trenches. That's going to be awesome. Watch out for Avion Terrell, cornerback. He's a stud. They did lose Maffa to the Cowboys. They're going to depend on Jay Haynes. Last year he only had 295 yards. But I think they'll figure that out in the running back room. Wide receivers, deadly. Antonio Williams last year, 904 yards, 12.1 per catch, 11 TDs. And he ran the ball 7 times for 101 yards. And junior Brian Westco, 708 yards, averaged 7 yards per catch. So I think they're going to do well. Dabo hired ex-Indiana coach Tom Allen to be his defensive coordinator. I think this is Dabo's year. We'll be talking about that in the top 25 down the road. But I have the Tigers winning 10 games and going to the playoff, representing your ACC, Mike.
All right.
What you got?
So, yeah, starting at number 4 for me for my Final 4, I got Pittsburgh at 9-3. You mentioned Eli Holstein. You had some crazy numbers for him for last year. Because I'm showing 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 62% on the completion, and 2,200 yards. And he was hurt for a good bit as well. I like Eli Holstein a lot. I think that he reminds me a lot of Kenny Pickett in this Pittsburgh team where, you know, he may not be a first-round draft pick, which Kenny Pickett was. Let's just remind everybody about that, how the Steelers did that. For our Steelers fans in the chat.
Yeah.
But I think it's very similar. He's a good game-managing quarterback. He gets guys to buy in. He can move on his feet if he needs to. I like Eli Holstein's game a lot. You mentioned Desmond Reed coming back. He's the main focal point on that offense. running the ball, receiving. Massive, massive for him to come back. They have 8 returning starters on defense, not including the transfers that they've gotten in. It's big time for Pittsburgh, I think. And their schedule, granted, they have a couple tough away games, but for the most part, it's pretty favorable for them. They go to West Virginia week 3, then they have a bye, then they get Louisville at home. 2 weeks later, they got to go to Tallahassee to play Florida State. Then they got to go to Syracuse, and then they get NC State at home after that. That's probably their toughest stretch of the season. Well, no, it's not. They have those 3 games, and then they go to Stanford, which, again, that cross-country trip, it evens the playing field a little bit. We talked about how we both feel about Stanford. You can see it on the screen right now. We're not high on them, but when you take this long travel into it with these young kids, these college kids, they have class, they have relationships, they have stuff. It can get a lot. It can get a lot. Can family go? Can family not go? There's distractions. So never, always take into consideration when those teams are making those big time zone changes. Just kind of keep it in the back of your mind when you're looking at these games as the season gets going. Then they get a bye week. And this is their last 3 games here, Dave. Notre Dame at home. Then they go to Georgia Tech. And then they get Miami at home to end the season. Those are their last 3 games of the year. But I actually have them winning 2 of those games. One of them being against my Miami Hurricanes. So that's how I get Pittsburgh at 9-3. I think they find a way to do it. Narduzzi is one of the best defensive minds in football. He knows how to get his guys going. He knows how to fire them up. He knows what bulletin board to use at certain times to get the best out of his guys. And I think he does that this year. So, yeah, I got Pittsburgh at 9-3, 6-2 in the conference, competing in the ACC this year. Number 3, I have SMU coming in at 10-2. They are very, very experienced on both sides of the football. You mentioned it. They have a ton of transfers coming in to fill the void because even as experienced as they are, they lost 14 starters from last year's team. That is a massive, massive hole to fill. They think that they can do it. I obviously think they can do it with the record that I'm giving them, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. You mentioned it, Brashard Smith. He's in the NFL now with the Chiefs. Former Hurricane transfer, followed Rhett Lashley, the head coach, when he went from being the OC at Miami to take the SMU head coaching job. So they lose him, their top running back production. They lose their top 2 receivers, and they lose their top tackler on defense. Rhett Lashley, couple facts here for you. He is 29-12 as a head coach at SMU. They are 16-3 at home. And on the road, they are a surprisingly 13-6. So they know how to win. They know how to win on the road. You mentioned Kevin Jennings coming back at quarterback. They got the big-time target that you also mentioned at tight end, R.J. Maryland. He's a huge red zone threat. That's where most of the balls end up going to. Pause. You mentioned how tough you think their schedule is, and I thought that was interesting because I really only have about 5 games on their schedule that I think is worrisome, and you actually named the same 5. It's Baylor at home, TCU on the road, Clemson on the road, Miami at home, and Louisville at home. I think those 5 games are really going to be their test.
Yep.
Everything outside of that is pretty much a cakewalk. So
yep.
It'll be very interesting to see what this SMU team does because, I mean, if they can win 3 out of those 5, 4 out of those 5, you're looking at a team that's in the ACC championship and maybe getting in again to the CFP as an at-bid team if they were to lose the ACC championship. So keep your eye on SMU. As much as I want to say, they're not going to be able to duplicate that success from last year, the cards are lining up pretty solid for them right now. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Number 2 for me. I'm trying to shock your world tonight, Dave, with this parody, okay? So Clemson, number 2. They're going to be 10-2. All right. You mentioned it. They got 16 starters coming back. Highly, highly experienced team on the O-line and just completely overall in general. Dabo Sweeney, his philosophy ever since this NIL transfer portal, all of it started to stir and occur. He has stood firm, 2 feet down, that he does not believe in the transfer portal. He likes his guys that he recruits. He likes to develop, and you're seeing it continue to pay off. I mean, everybody's sort of waiting for it to, fall on his face per se, but it just hasn't happened. They just keep refueling and recruiting. They keep developing, and they have not missed a beat really outside of, last year, which I'm sorry, I think they still were in the CFP, were they not? So, and that was a down year for them with some not so great football. They got a lot of guys coming back. They do lose their leading running back. You mentioned it, Phil Maffa, to your Dallas Cowboys. They do return their top 3 receiving options. They return their top 2 tacklers. They return the top 6 out of their 7 rushing attack. 6 out of 7 are back. I think they make a serious run this year. I think they could 100% go undefeated. I think you're 100% correct in your Cade Klubnik, Heisman. He'll probably be in the final 3 in New York. Will he win it? We'll talk about that in a later show, like you mentioned. But, I mean, all signs point to he will be sitting in New York for that Heisman Trophy ceremony. So their schedule lines up like this. They open the season at home against LSU, which, again, we've talked about bulletin board material like we did with Castellanos, the quarterback for Florida State, talking about Alabama and how they want them and they're not worried about them and yada, yada, yada. Brian Kelly sort of did the same sort of thing the other day in front of some LSU boosters and called basically Clemson's Death Valley not the real Death Valley. So I'm sure that'll go over really well when he goes there, because the last time he was in the not real Death Valley, he got his ass kicked when he was at Notre Dame, and Clemson really gave it to him. So Dabo's going to be ready for it. We talked about it a little bit on the SEC show, a little preview there for you. I do like Clemson in that game week 1. You can book it now. I'll be on that side when we talk about it week 1. I think Clemson gets it done at home, and we discussed it in the SEC show kind of why already. But they got LSU at home, Georgia Tech on the road. I actually think that they lose that game. I think they lose to Georgia Tech on the road and they stumble. But then after that, that's kind of the game that rights the ship, and they just kind of wipe everybody out after that. They go to North Carolina. They get SMU at home. They get Florida State at home. They go to Louisville, and then they go to South Carolina to end the year. So all in all, pretty favorable schedule for the most part. Not too many teams on there that's going to have them stumbling. But I do think that they slip up once or twice and get to that 10-2 mark. Gator Dave, my number 1 team in the ACC at the end of the regular season is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I hate to agree with Caleb in the chat.
And he probably
he's probably gone, but I am 100% on board. And I wish he was here because it's exactly what he called. Georgia Tech 10-2, number 1 in the ACC. I do have Haynes King as a Heisman dark horse. I think he could potentially be sitting right next to Cade Klubnik in New York. You mentioned his Josh Allen-like tendencies. I mean, the dude is a beast, and he's a leader. His team gets behind him. As long as he's on the field, those players think that they have a chance to win, and that is so, so important when it comes to a game like football. I will say one thing to watch for this Georgia Tech team is their O-line. They do have a relatively young O-line. Will that play a major factor? I don't know. Haynes King does have the ability to run the football if he needs to, but you never want your quarterback to run too much. You don't want your quarterback taking unnecessary hits, especially when he's that important to your team. So it'll be interesting how that side of it plays out. They do return their top 2 tacklers on defense. They return their top 3 rushers. They do lose wide receiver Eric Singleton, which we discussed, but they return Malik Rutherford, who, actually you could probably argue had a better season last year than Eric Singleton. I think he had more catches. I think he had just as many yards, if not a little bit less. I think he had the same amount of touchdowns, if not more. So you could argue Malik Rutherford was actually the one they wanted to keep between the two if they had to choose. And their schedule is pretty favorable, Gator Dave, and that's really the ultimate reason why I have them at 10-2. They go to Colorado to start the year. I think that one is a win just based off of experience, QB play. They kind of have in their mind, they've been there, done that in games that they're not supposed to win. So I think having that confidence is going to be big. Then they end up coming back home to play Clemson. It's like week 3 or 4. I think they could catch Clemson slipping. I think that could be like a 12 o'clock noon kickoff, and it's a little hot. Clemson maybe comes in a little sleepy. Georgia Tech might shock them at home. That is one of the losses that I have Clemson having, and that's why I have Georgia Tech actually above Clemson in my rankings, is because of that game right there. Then they also play Virginia Tech. They get them at home. They got to go to Raleigh to play NC State. They play Pittsburgh at home. And then this year, which is a little bit different than what they're used to, at the end of the year against Georgia, we mentioned it in the SEC show a little bit, they're playing at a neutral site rather than a home and home. It's in Atlanta, Georgia still. It's at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but instead of being a home game for Georgia Tech on their campus, they're playing inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a neutral site game. And something that is not on the side of Georgia Tech since 2001, Georgia Tech is 3-20 straight up against Georgia, and they've lost their last 7 in a row. Last year, they should have won. They were like a 17-point underdog. They were up by 2 scores, 2 touchdowns. They ended up losing, I think, in 8 overtimes or something. It was incredible how they weren't able to close that game out. I think this year they could catch Georgia at the end of the year. I think it could be a look-ahead game for Georgia, and I think Georgia Tech has something to play for with being how close they were last year. I mean, that's going to be heavy on their minds as they get later on in the season, closer to that Georgia game, especially if they're rolling and they have momentum. That's going to be a really, really fun game to watch. So that's one to watch out for if you're a Dogs fan, and one that I'd watch out for sure if you're looking at any of these ACC teams this year and how they line up. But Dave, that is my 17.
It sucks that, Georgia's going to get half the crowd at Mercedes-Benz, right? If it's a neutral site, then it's half and half. That just sucks. Yeah. Although Georgia, we talked about Georgia's record in the Mercedes-Benz ain't all that either, but it's still, I still that's against true. Them. I'd rather be 50-50 than I would, 90-10, which is what a real home game would have been for Georgia Tech, because you don't get any. Well, you're right.
There's a lot of Dogs fans at those Georgia Tech home games, so it's
You're right.
There is you're right. It's probably more going to be like 50-50, probably even more still like 60-40 Georgia fans, but it'll be a different experience for sure.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, very interesting. I definitely think Georgia Tech's going to be a fun team this year, and looking forward to where they go. So it's looking forward to seeing these teams in the ACC and already getting a good feel for some of those first games in terms of how we might want to bet those games. So should be good. Next week, we got the Big Ten. So the Champion League, right? The last 2 years with their Michigan and Ohio State folks up there. So look forward to that. Man, thanks to all the folks that jumped in the chat. I know we're a little long today, but, man, getting through all these games, looks like it takes about an hour and a half, Mike, which is all good. So some folks came in early, came in late.
17
teams.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of teams.
Whereas, like when we do our week to week, we're talking 12 games.
12.
So it's a little. Yeah,
we can do it in an hour.
Long. And we're technically talking about 34 teams because we're each getting our piece in. So it'll be better. I promise, folks. When we get to week 1,
it'll be an hour
for you. I swear.
It'll be an hour. We'll keep it under that as the norm. But again, we'll see everyone next week. Thanks so much for everybody being on, watching, listening, however you're catching us, and we should have a good show next week with the Big Ten. That's the U, Mike. That's the U. ACC, the U.
Go Canes, Dave. Go Canes.
Go Gators,
ACC.
Miguel. Go Gators.
I hope they prove me wrong. Win our first one before the ACC championship and the ACC conference goes bye-bye. We need one. We need one. But
we'll see.
thank y'all for
We'll
watching.
see.
I appreciate it.